Hi, and welcome to today's Daily Chronicle. Today is Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. Got 3 minutes? This habit may help boost hope and reduce stress. Our social media feeds can push us to the dark side, with content full of strife and anger, or videos that make us feel bad about ourselves. But there is a way to reprogram what you see by making different choices. And a new study finds 3 to 5 minutes of inspiring content each day can help you feel more positive. Researchers scoured the internet for videos that elicited wow emojis or had gone viral. They identified underdog narratives, where a person overcomes adversity, such as the real-life story of Sean Swarner, a cancer survivor who set out to climb Mount Everest. He battled Hodgkin lymphoma and had only one functioning lung. As part of the study, participants watched a video of Swarner describing his quest and other videos like it of people succeeding against the odds. It turns out that watching someone overcome adversity can make us feel good. We found that people felt more hopeful after watching the inspiring videos, says study author Robin Nabi at UC Santa Barbara, and that hope predicted lower stress over the next 10 days, she said. The study included about 1,000 adults from across the U.S., ages 18 to 86. One group watched an inspiring video, about 3 to 5 minutes in length. Every day for 5 days, others watched comedy, while another group did a few minutes of meditation, and a control group didn't watch any media. The participants completed surveys at the beginning and end of the study to assess the changes in feelings of hope and stress. Comedy didn't move the needle much. People who watched comedy did not differ from the control group, but both the inspiring videos and the meditation significantly increased hope. We were actually quite surprised how similar the effects of inspiring videos were to the group that meditated, Nabi says. Both groups felt more hope, she explains, and that predicted less stress 10 days later. The research is published in Psychology of Popular Media, a publication of the American Psychological Association. Nabi says the effects were not dramatic, because nothing as simple as watching a few videos can have a massive effect on your long-term well-being. Our moods and emotions are complicated and influenced by multiple factors. But even though the effects are small, she says they are still significant. These small effects can accrue over time, says Nabi. Hopefulness helps us feel that we can deal with the thing that causes the stress in our lives. So the question is, what happens when we make this a habit, she says. Positive content leads to positive feelings. This finding is not a surprise to me, says Judith Malkowitz of Northwestern University, who studies the impact of positive emotions. It's great to have the science tell us what we sort of know intuitively, and that if we look at positive content, we're going to feel more positive and more hope, she says. In the study, participants were sent the videos and agreed to watch as part of the study. This is different from what happens when we simply start scrolling. So Moskowitz says the challenge is to take this finding and implement it into your life. How can you change your focus to find more positive things in your feed to help you sustain hope? It's tricky, she acknowledges. Social media algorithms can nudge us toward the negative because highly arousing or thrilling content tends to capture our attention and keep us on the apps, even when it's negative. Explains media researcher Allison Eden of Michigan State University. Media can be a powerful tool for coping and mood management, she says, but we have proactively choose the positive. And here's another challenge. Her research shows people tend to seek out scary or sad content when they're in bad moods, rather than something that will bring joy or calm. In fact, the preference got stronger when their mood worsened, Eden says. We don't always connect the dots between what we're watching and how it makes us feel. Whether it's the movies we choose on streaming apps or the content in our social media feeds, Eden says there are multiple strategies to counter-program your social feeds with the intention of seeing more feel-good content. Here are 3 things to try. 1. Seed your feed with the positive. Make an effort that the first couple of things you search for every day are things that are going to put you in a positive frame, Eden says. Find hashtags that match your interests, such as positive body image, wildlife, puppies, sports moments, or content that aligns with your hobbies, whether it's mahjong, pickleball, or musical interests. Anything that could help you feel good. Keep a media log. Every time you watch something, ask yourself how you feel. Write down your responses. Tracking will help you connect the dots between your media use and your mood. After a few weeks, you may see a pattern of how your choices influence your well-being. 3. Wipe your feed. If you see too much anxiety-evoking content or content you don't like, you can start off by deleting your account and opening a new one. I do this myself, Eden says. From time to time, as a reset, this is an opportunity to check in with whether your feed is working for you or against you, and reset your online presence. Think of it as a digital cleanse or detox. You can also opt for a weekly break, such as a 24-hour pause from social media to get distance. To optimize health, sync your habits with your body clock. Here's how. The return to standard time is better for our health according to sleep scientists, but the time change can be disruptive, and our bodies must also adjust to more hours of darkness as we head towards winter. The body is an exquisite time-keeping machine, and growing evidence shows that if you align your daily habits with your circadian rhythms, including when you sleep, eat, and exercise, you can fend off chronic disease and optimize good health. Let's start with a quick primer. Your body is filled with clocks, explains Emily Manugan, a researcher and chronobiologist at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies. In addition to the master clock in your brain, there are timekeeping mechanisms in every organ and in your cells. Every cell in your body that has DNA has a molecular clock that keeps its own time, she says. They're all part of your body's circadian system, helping you stay in sync with your 24-hour cycle. But our bodies don't perfect time on their own. Every day we stray a bit from the 24-hour cycle and need a reset, explains Salk Institute researcher Sachin Panda, author of The Circadian Code. Lose weight, supercharge your energy, and transform your health from morning to midnight. The master clock in your brain coordinates all the other clocks through a series of different cues. Manugian explains including external cues such as light, food, and movement. And that's why the timing of our habits can play a pivotal role in keeping our clocks in sync. Light from the sun serves as an external cue to resynchronize the master clock. That's why it's helpful to open the blinds in the morning and spend time outdoors. And as it turns out, our first bite of food each day also works as an external cue to sync the clocks in our digestive system and throughout our bodies. Food is also a signal to reset the clocks, especially your gut. Manoogian says that's one of the reasons why making sure you're eating at the right time relative to light is important. Eating is a cue to wake up your digestive and metabolic organs, which are primed to function best during the day. By nighttime, that metabolic system is ready for rest too. When you're asleep, your body expects to fast, and so it shuts down the part of the system that captures glucose from the blood and stores it away, she explains. When people eat too close to bedtime or in the middle of the night, their metabolic organs aren't optimized to do their job. The misalignment can lead to poor blood sugar control. Her research shows that restricting the number of hours you eat during the day to about a 10-hour window can lead to significant improvements in metabolic health. There's a lot of evidence that eating out of sync with our circadian rhythms can increase the risk of metabolic diseases, including diabetes and obesity. Studies show that shift workers who are rotating overnight shifts have a higher risk of developing these conditions, due in part to the disruption of natural rhythms. And when it comes to exercise, some people find they do best in the morning, others in the afternoon. Says Dr. Phyllis Z., director of the Center for Sleep and Circadian Medicine at Northwestern University Feinberg School of Medicine. But the science shows exercising late at night, just before bed, can disrupt sleep. There's a peak time for almost every physiological process, Z says. The timing of feeding, the time that you exercise, the physical activity, all of these help entertain the clocks in your body so that they're in sync, she says. If you eat dinner and go to bed around the same time, most nights your creature of habit ways could pay off. The science shows that regularity is very important for the circadian system and for health, Z says. And while each person is unique, a general rule of thumb is to begin limiting exposure to light, food, and heavy exercise starting a few hours before bedtime. But as scientists have learned more about the importance of keeping our biological clocks in sync, society has moved in the opposite direction. Manoogian points to advertisements for midnight food menus and around-the-clock work and entertainment as examples of our 24/7 modern life. One way to push back is to track your daily habits. Michelle Pitsley, who lives in Vista, California, started using an app called My Circadian Clock to log her eating and blood sugar. She says it helped her stick to a time-restricted eating window and helped her track her progress. The app was developed by Salk scientists as a research tool and is used in Salk Institute studies. It's free to any adult who downloads it. The app provides guidance on when to sleep, eat, and exercise. Note, if you sign up, if you sign up, you're sharing data with researchers. When we have broken circadian rhythms, the risk for chronic disease rises, including obesity, diabetes, heart disease, fatty liver disease, gut diseases, and common cancers, says Panda and Runugian. If you want to be more intentional about aligning your habits for better health, here are 3 strategies to try. Drop the late snack and limit the hours you eat. People who restrict their eating to a 10-hour window can reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes, Munigian says. She and Panda co-authored a study of 108 adults, average age 59, who had symptoms of metabolic disease. They found those who followed time restricting eating saw a significant reduction in their hemoglobin ALK, which is a person's average glucose over a few months, compared to participants who did not restrict their eating window. Participants were not asked to reduce calories, only to restrict the eating window for a period of 3 months. It was exciting to see that just the time-restricted eating was able to reduce their risk of type 2 diabetes by 60%, Manugian says, because the reduction in blood sugar, if maintained, reduces the risk of disease. Research also suggests that eating your biggest meal of the day in the afternoon, as opposed to later in the evening, can be beneficial for those who want to lose weight. A study from Spain found early eaters lost 25% more weight than late eaters. Panda says when his grandmother gave up late-night snack that included tea with sugar and milk, an occasional snack, that one change led to a significant drop in her blood sugar levels. Go to bed at the same time most nights. Keeping the same sleep schedule is optimal, Manugian says. The consistency gives your body a chance to anticipate and keep internal clocks synchronized. During sleep, waste is cleared out of our brains, and memories are consolidated. And there's a pile of evidence to show rest is crucial for our health. But don't beat yourself up when you have a late night out. And of course, there will be disruptions due to travel, work deadlines, or weekend celebrations. Going off your circadian system is not like breaking an arm. Manugian says, think of the harms of erratic schedules akin to the way dripping water can erode stone. Little hits, time after time, can wear down in the system, she says, and the result is you can feel slower and older. There are a lot of bedtime rituals to foster for a good night's sleep, including limiting light before bed and sleeping in darkness. Z's research shows even small amounts of light while sleeping can have adverse effects on cardiovascular and metabolic health. 3. Time exercise to your sweet spot, but not too late at night. Whether you're a morning lark or a night owl can influence the ideal time for you to exercise. So this will vary from person to person, Z says. The better time to exercise depends in part on what we call your chronotype, she says, which is a person's innate preference for timing of sleep or when they feel more alert and energetic. One way to estimate your tendency is with a morningness, eveningness questionnaire. If you're a morning person, then morning exercise can be beneficial, creating consistent structure. Z says, but people who grow more alert later in the day may want to put off until later. As people juggle competing obligations, exercise may be shoehorned into the time if it's in your calendar. Even if it's not your body's preferred window, she says it's important to remember that exercise is beneficial, no matter what time you do it. But keep this in mind. Exercise is a stimulatory cue to tell your body you should be awake. Manoogian says, so this is not a surprise that recent research shows that exercise just before sleep can disrupt sleep quality. Presidents once avoided shutdown travel. This Trump has been a frequent flyer. President Trump hosts a Mar-a-Lago Halloween party in Palm Beach, Florida on Friday. With the government shutdown dragging into a second month and growing more painful by the day, President Trump is spending the weekend in Florida. Saturday he's golfing. On Friday night he hosted a glitzy gathering at his Mar-a-Lago resort, where guests dressed in sequins, fedoras, and feathers, and long pearl necklaces. The Great Gatsby-inspired theme for the event was "A Little Party Never Killed Nobody." This isn't an isolated trip for the president. He spent nearly 2 full weeks outside of Washington since the shutdown began. There are missed paychecks for federal workers, travel disruptions, and SNAP food assistance at risk for millions of Americans. The White House and Republicans in Congress blame Democrats in the Senate for refusing to support a short-term funding bill that would reopen the government. They've lost their minds, Trump said to Democrats from Air Force One on his way to Florida. All they have to do is say the government is open, and that's the end of it. Trump spent less than 24 hours in Washington, D.C. this week. Most of the week he was in Asia, on a 3-country trip that started in Malaysia. He was greeted there by a brass band and brightly clothed dancers. Trump got in on it too, doing his signature Trump dance, swaying with clenched fists. This lengthy foreign trip, Trump's second time overseas during this shutdown, marked a significant break from how past presidents, including Trump himself, have approached government shutdowns. They have typically avoided the bad optics of skipping town during a crisis. President Trump has logged more travel during a shutdown than his recent predecessors. In 1995, President Clinton canceled a planned trip to Japan during the government shutdown so he could stay at the White House for talks with Republicans who controlled both the White House and Senate. We spent a number of days in the Oval Office, basically negotiating, trying to see if we could find a way to resolve it, said Leon Panetta, who was Clinton's chief of staff at the time. Because the last thing we wanted to do was to have the government shut down. That, unfortunately, is no longer the case. During a lengthy shutdown in 2013, then President Obama canceled a four-nation Asia trip. And in 2019, President Trump had a trip planned to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. If the shutdown continues, I won't go, Trump said. The shutdown continued, and he didn't go. Back then, though, Trump was talking about negotiating. He was trying to get a border wall funding added to the government funding bill. Look, this is really something that should be bipartisan, Trump said, as that shutdown dragged on. And we'll see if it is. I hope it is. 2019 versus 2025. That shutdown lasted 35 days, the longest on record. An NPR analysis finds that during that period, Trump only left Washington for 6 days. He traveled to Iraq to greet the troops around Christmas, Dover Air Force Base in Delaware for the signified transfer of Americans killed in an attack in Syria, Camp David in Maryland for a day, the U.S.-Mexico border to make the case for border wall funding, New Orleans to speak to the American Farm Bureau, and there were no visits to a Mar-a-Lago resort. This time it's quite different. Since the start of the shutdown on October 1st, Trump has seemingly made no adjustments to his travel plans and normal routines. His travels have included 2 trips to Florida, golf twice at his course near Washington, D.C., Israel and Egypt to mark the signing of the Gaza ceasefire agreement, stops in Malaysia, Japan, and South Korea during a 6-day trip. Not counting his Gulf outings in Virginia, Trump spent all or part of 14 days outside of Washington during the first 31 days of the shutdown. Republicans say there is nothing to negotiate until the government reopens. Just before Trump returned to the White House from Asia, Vice President J.D. Vance held a press conference to reassert the administration's position. We are not going to give in on a policy that demands under the threat of hostage taking, he said. There will be no negotiations until Democrats vote to reopen the government. We need 5 more reasonable Democrats to put the American people first and reopen the government. That's all that we're asking, Vance said. And it isn't just Trump. The GOP-controlled House of Representatives was away the entire month of October. The Senate has voted 13 times on the same funding bill, failing each time because of a lack of support from Democrats. Senators went home for the weekend on Thursday, with many of them encountering flight delays related to the shutdown. Democrats, who in the past have supported bills like the temporary funding measure Trump and Republicans are insisting on, say they want to negotiate. But so far, Republicans are sticking with their position that there is nothing to negotiate until the government is open. Trump can behave however he wants in this situation, said Dong-hae, who was Deputy Chief of Staff at the top House Republican during 2013 government shutdown. Whether he's going to events in foreign countries or just living life, none of it interferes with what the core argument is, which is Republicans saying, we've done our job, Democrats step up and do yours. To do anything different would actually cut against their own messaging. Also, he said, Trump clearly isn't all that concerned with political risk from looking like he isn't engaged in ending the shutdown. Even if Trump keeps teasing a 2028 run for an unconstitutional 3rd term, the president is governing like he has nothing to lose, says Hay. He is YOLO. You only live once. And he is going to do what he wants, wherever he wants, and he is going to push the boundaries as far as he can. Because whatever he talks about, he's not going to be on that ballot again, said Hay. But Panetta, who serves in Congress and multiple Democratic administrations, sees it differently. He says what's happening now is an abdication of what basic responsibility to govern. We've selected these people and they're not there. They've left Washington. They're going on trips, said Panetta. They're basically walking away from the very responsibility that should be exercising as elected officials. I mean, that's what's depressing about all of this. White House spokesperson Anna Kelly defended the president's travel as good for the country. While Democrats flail, President Trump won't stop delivering historic wins for our country, while simultaneously finding creative ways to pay our troops and reduce the suffering as a result of Democrats' far left priorities, Kelly said of Trump's Asia travels.